In a wild turn of events, I decided to play some PUBG again, and let me tell you, it's certainly hard to come back to this game after playing so much Warzone. PUBG is undeniably a very skillful game with some serious recoil control on the weapons and just the overall gunplay in general. And having not played it in a while, it was definitely a case of throwing myself straight back into the fire. So why did I give it a shot again? Well, mostly just out of interest and because they've had a new season and a new map that's doing some interesting things. So now live in the game is Paramo, and what's cool about this is that it's a dynamic map. That caught my attention, and it also has this massive volcano in the background that dominates the island. What's more exciting about this map though is how that dynamic element works. Between matches, key locations, terrain and lava flows can change position, meaning the map will potentially be different between each game. This is helped by the overall aesthetic of the map, with certain areas of the terrain dominated by red hot lava from the active volcano, and be careful, it does do a load of damage if you step in it. Trust me, I tried. All this means really is that certain landmark areas are going to be in completely different parts of the map. And so while players may have a favourite spot that they drop at and they have a route that they tend to take every match, this will require them to make them think on their feet a little bit more. And this is definitely something different for PUBG, having one map that can evolve. But in general, I did enjoy the feel and look of the map. The volcano in the distance really does look epic. Sadly, I do have some issues with the map, mainly due to its player count. Paramo is a 3x3 kilometer map, so it's particularly small, which in itself isn't so much of an issue. Sometimes you want fast-paced action, and so I'm all for that. Sadly though, the player count here has been limited to 64 players, and you could say, well, that's because the map is smaller, so it aids the pacing of the game, but that certainly wasn't the feeling or the experience that I had here. If you remember Karakin, that older map, that's also 64 players, and I haven't played that map for quite a while now, and that one's even smaller at 2x2. So I was playing solo squads because I don't have any mates that play PUBG anymore, which means that I was playing on my own against squads of up to 4 players. There weren't any solos available when I recorded this, and sometimes when I was playing PUBG regularly back in the day and I didn't have any friends online, I'd jump into solos quite often. But then other games came along and piqued my interest more. The problem for me with the new map though was that way too often after looting, I would look up at the players left and see that there were like 20 players alive before I'd even seen anyone or got into a firefight. Sure, the map is small, but there were still occasions where I was stuck in that classic PUBG loop of not seeing an enemy for 15 minutes to then find myself get shot and instantly killed and then game over. I appreciate that PUBG is a different type of BR from others that have released recently. It's way more punishing and challenging. Apex, Warzone, well, they're fast-paced arcade BR games, but even when PUBG adds in a really small map, it somehow still doesn't get the pacing correct for me. Of course, that's just my opinion, and it's coming from someone who isn't playing PUBG every day anymore like I once was, so I appreciate that the die-hard player base may not have any issues with the pacing at all, but for me, it is still a massive reason why I don't play this game regularly, despite really enjoying the gunplay and finding it incredibly rewarding. It's also worth pointing out that Paramo is labelled as a seasonal map, and this means that it's in a solo pool that's separate from the other maps. It looks like it will only be available for this season, and then perhaps it will be swapped out. It's quite possible that bots have also been disabled, and to my joy there are no red zones, possibly one of my most disliked features of PUBG. You may have noticed, if you're watching, that because of the lore of this map, you also arrive via a helicopter rather than a plane. And this also counts for care packages too. There are also exclusive items on this map, including full body camo suits, ghillie suits, and a backpack. If you hit the chopper with enough gunfire as it's flying over you, you can get it to drop that package sooner. And of course, on such a small map, this will absolutely give your position away and maybe attract some attention. There are secret rooms to be unlocked too, and you know, I do love a secret room. In this case, they aren't all that hidden though. These are temples, if you want to call them that, spread out across the map in various sizes with ominous locked doors stopping you from gaining access. And when looting, you may randomly find a door key, and I'm sure that you can see where this is going. take said key to one of the door locations and boom, open sesame. Inside you can expect to find a lot of good loot, including a Mosin Nagant or perhaps an M24. There's also a critical response kit that you can pick up too, and this item allows you to revive a teammate in only a second, and that is a very strong item in squads considering how long it usually takes. PUBG isn't short of maps these days, but currently there are 2 playlists. You can either play the new map Paramo in its own queue, or you can queue for a random map which will be from one of the core playlists: Vikendi, Miramar, Erangel, Sanok and Karakin. For me though, this is a double-edged sword, because ideally you'd like to choose the map that you want to play, much like you could in the early days when there were only 2 maps, but now they've got 5+ maps in the game. I just don't think that's feasible on PC, as the player count across all of these maps would inevitably increase queue times. Of course, with any new season, there's a new season pass too, this time called Highlands. The pass will run for a shorter time for normal, only lasting 2 months, but it will also only have 50 levels. This season also sees the introduction of solos to the ranked mode. If you want to work your way up the leaderboards on your own, then that option is now available. There have also been updates and changes to the overall ranked rule set, as well as lots of bug fixes, quality of life improvements, and a few weapon changes to the Beryl and the SLR. Apparently the Beryl had just clearly been the best gun in the game for a while, so I'd imagine that those weapon changes are welcomed. Overall, I enjoyed the aesthetic of the new map, but PUBG at its core gameplay level hasn't changed all that much over the past year. Not that it needs to, of course, for the people that enjoy it, but I do feel as though I've moved on and there's other BR games that I enjoy playing more now. For me, PUBG hasn't maintained the pace that it had when it started, and it hasn't kept with the times of this evolving genre of games. I don't particularly enjoy the mass looting anymore, gathering up as many attachments for my gun as I can, and the worst thing for me is playing PUBG with friends in a squad and dying only to sit there for 20 minutes as my squad carries on in that round. It seems so old-fashioned compared to other 2020 BR games, and I think that it's lost a lot of the fun element along the way. Having said that, as I mentioned before, this is a slower, more tactical game, and I think that's what the player base enjoys about it. And on PC, they still do have peak concurrence of around 300,000 a day according to Steam. The free-to-play mobile version of PUBG is incredibly popular too. I do wonder what a separate limited time mode would look like, where perhaps if a teammate is dead, then squad members could somehow revive them so they parachute back in, not to replace the core mode, but just to see how it plays. Maybe me and my friends would play some more that way. Ultimately, I do still love the skill-based gameplay of PUBG. I just hate all of the waiting around to get to it. And cheating is also still a fairly big issue on PC. Whilst I don't actively play and I didn't come across any cheaters in this little play session here, I do follow some PUBG players and streamers on Twitter, and they're often complaining about blatant cheaters, and it just seems that the problem has never been fixed, and that's a major concern. So in conclusion, I don't see myself jumping back into PUBG regularly again. I like the pacing of Warzone. I think that nowadays it offers more enjoyment to me currently, but I do appreciate the new content nonetheless. It's cool that they're still adding new maps, and I hope that they can continue to develop this game, and who knows, maybe one day we'll get back into playing it regularly. For now though, I'm happy to just dip back in every now and again. With that said, thank you for watching guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Are you still playing PUBG, or do you know anyone that is? What are your major concerns or the reasons that you do or don't play anymore? If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you didn't, a dislike. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.